medals last year to her name as well, so she's coming in as number 2 today, but she's certainly the Fed Cup for the USA.
Yeah, she's not actually visible there at the moment. We're waiting for her before the presentation, which is about to take place. The opening ceremony, of course, a big part of all that this is about, this competition. The World Cup of tennis, showing your colours, a key part of Fed Cup by BNP Paribas, and a decent small size, but I'm sure they're going to make plenty of noise here, the travelling American contingent, as they look to make it back-to-back final appearances, keep this title defence going. There are quite a few of them in here in this arena. But the French, as you were saying, Luke, will try and make home advantage count, as is so often the case. We look at Davis Cup as well, and the importance of home advantage in what could be a tight tie.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, when you look at it, the first match, Parmentier against Stevens, Stevens has to go into that match favourite, but as you quite rightly said, there is a big discrepancy between her record playing at home and playing away. So Parmentier is going to be looking to take advantage early on and see if she can get France off to a good start. But for me, the big match of the game, Mladenovic against Van der Wey, I think that's going to be very pivotal for the overall outcome of the tie.
Yeah, it's a big tie as well, isn't it? Because you've got the two big rubber, because you've got the two standard bearers, really, their respective nations. Mladenovic has been so big over the years. There is Coco van der Wey about to make her way out, joining in here for the opening ceremony with these first singles rubbers. She's talked about that. She never wants to miss a tie. She hasn't done for a very long time, Van der Wey. If she's fit and healthy, she plays Fed Cup, and it means a lot to her. Here come the officials. Claire Wood, of course, the tie referee, alongside Mariana Velevic and Alison Hughes as well there. Let's join in now as the teams are about to be introduced.
Mesdames, Messieurs, présentation des arbitres officiels, juge arbitre de la rencontre, Claire Wood. Arbitre de la rencontre, Alison Hughes. Et Mariana Velevic. Mesdames, Messieurs, présentation de l'équipe des États-Unis avec Bethany Mattek-Sands. Coco Vanderweg. Madison Keys. Sloan Stephens. Capitaine de l'équipe des États-Unis, Cathy Rinaldi. Mesdames et messieurs, merci de vous lever pour l'hymne des États-Unis. Mesdames et messieurs, chers supporters, la composition de votre équipe de France avec Amandine S. Pauline Parmentier. Christina Ladinovic. Le capitaine de l'équipe de France, Yannick Noah. Mesdames, Messieurs, chers supporters, la Marseillaise. Le premier match de cette rencontre opposera Pauline Parmentier face à Sloan Stephens.
So the opening ceremony at an end then. All the colour, the volume, just the brilliance really of Fed Cup by BNP Paribas on show. The French, I have to say, I think all the nations enjoy hosting, but the French maybe more than most because they do a wonderful job, the French Tennis Federation. You think of their tournaments through the year, you think of Roland Garros coming up in a few weeks, and when the French Fed Cup and Davis Cup teams are at home, I mean, the atmosphere here, Luke, is unbelievable in here right now, and they're going to need it because, as we've been saying, on paper, this is a US victory, but as you've been saying, Fed Cup ties are not played on paper, and the home advantage, everything, the atmosphere, it could drive them through this weekend.
Well, you know, it is such a huge factor. And the thing I loved about the opening ceremony there, the whole French team, arms locked, absolutely belting out that national anthem, just trying to draw the crowd in as well. And I think you saw a lot of passion in that stadium, and they are going to need that. But can that home advantage be just that difference that they need to turn the tide of the form book as such in this match?
Yeah, bound to be some nerves around. Obviously, Stevens' excellent form recently, but looking to rebound from some disappointment. You go back to the Fed Cup final last year in Belarus, where she lost a very, very tight match. Didn't contribute a point to that success. It was really Van der Wey who took the United States through to the title. And then, of course, the first round, the match with the Netherlands, we had the Williams involved there. And it's just the depth the Americans have. All the options that Cathy Rinaldi can call upon this weekend. Of course, she's gone with these players, but you could pick, just talking about it off air, weren't we? Like, I mean, you could pick for the Americans, you could pick 3 or 4 teams for Fed Cup, and they'd be pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, they would. They've got, currently now, women's tennis in the USA is very, very strong. Lots of young players as well. 13 players in the top 100 on the WTA rankings, and yeah, they could have three pretty healthy squads out of that, and they do pretty well.
Yeah, for the French, of course, players unavailable for Yannick Noah, the captain this weekend, notably Caroline Garcia and Elise Cornet, and therefore responsibility falling on Kristina Mladenovic, but also here on Pauline Parmentier, the veteran French woman who's 32 years of age now, 122 in the world, but has been a lot higher than that. And has a lot of experience to draw upon, even if Fed Cup hasn't been her happiest hunting ground when she's played singles rubbers in recent years. Has won just 1 of her last 6. That's the sort of run she's looking to nip in the bud here. She could upset Stevens. Players at the net then. Mariana Velovic, this all-important first rubber, as always, of course. Best of 5 rubbers for Greek ties. There's 2 singles rubbers here, Stevens to Parmentier and Van der Wey to take on Mladenovic, and then we have the 2 reverse singles rubbers. Slight difference, of course, from Davis Cup, because Davis Cup the doubles is in the middle. Here in Fed Cup, for those of you not aware, it's at the end of things, but so often it goes on to be the key at the end when teams split their singles rubbers over the 2 days.
Yeah, it's an interesting format that between the Fed Cup and the Davis Cup, and I think when you think about the Davis Cup and the importance of that doubles rubber right in the middle of the tie, I think Fed Cup, obviously if the singles is a little bit one-sided, the doubles becomes then way less important. But if you do get that tie where it goes to 2-2, I find that final doubles very exciting, really good one for the doubles players to get stuck into.
Yeah, you certainly wouldn't rule out this tie, especially if Parmentier here could spring a surprise, but you feel Mladenovic, a lot is going to fall on her. If she could win her 2 singles, then clearly at least it goes to the deciding doubles. We'll see what happens here. The players out here warming up then now here at the Arena Pédé here in Aix-en-Provence in southern France. Cathy Rinaldi taking her undefeated streak, of course, having taken over and going all the way, masterminding the United States to the Fed Cup crown last November in Belarus, in Minsk, with that thrilling victory in the final. French, for their part, here looking to cause the upset. These 2 nations are meeting for the 14th time in the competition's history. It's the Americans who historically have held the edge, 11-2, previous 13. But of course, Noah's team won last meeting in the States in St. Louis in 2014. Caroline Garcia, very much the key player there, winning 3 of the rubbers that she took part in there, including the deciding doubles we were talking about. So let's see whether we get there again. Players here warming up. I mean, Stevens is an interesting one, isn't she? Let's focus on her first of all, because I mean, Miami was great. The US Open last fall was great as well last September. But in between, she's been a bit up and down, and this competition hasn't always been super kind to her. Yeah,
I think she strikes me, particularly just really when you look at her results, somebody who, when she's on and when she's confident, can beat anyone out there, and then maybe when that confidence dips a little bit, her game seems to suffer a lot more than some other players who maybe are a little bit more even throughout the year. I think the Fed Cup team competition, it's always a slightly different animal, and I always feel a slightly different type of pressure. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see how, in an away tie here with a pretty raucous crowd really getting into it, how she settles down, particularly early in this match. I think if Palm is gonna get through, I think her opportunity early in the match if Stevens doesn't quite settle.
Yeah, it's interesting when we're looking at Parmentier's numbers here, of course, as you mentioned, relative veteran, 32 years of age, has been inside the world's top 50 before, but now down in 122, and we mentioned that record, just one of her last 6 singles, resulting in victory 10 overall. If you're in Yannick Noah's shoes here, and you're preparing her to take on the US Open champion, I mean, you're stressing, presumably, you've got to start this match well. You've got to pressure pretty quickly here.
I think again, I think he'll be pointing to the atmosphere and the crowd as well, and just really pointing out to her the more she can start well, start quickly, get off to a strong start. Hopefully, the crowd are going to get behind her, and that's where, again, that home advantage can start playing a little bit more of a part in the match, and particularly with someone like Sloane Stevens, who, if she were to get off to a really strong start and get confident and get hot, you have to think that this match could be pretty one-sided. So Parmentier is going to have to come out of the blocks pretty.
Yeah, look at Stevens' record here. We touched on it a little bit already. 2-4 in singles, actually looking to win a first Fed Cup rubber since the 2016 World Group 2 first round. Lost both of her singles, as we were alluding to, in the final last November in Belarus, having, of course, missed the rest of that season with a right foot injury. That's why the US Open triumph was just a whole American summer. I mean, it was one of the stories of the year, I thought, in sport. Never mind tennis. I mean, it was so unlikely that she would come back. And, of course, now winning Miami into the world top 10 as well. She's a wonderful player. Can she bring it? Because, as I say, she hasn't always brought her best level of performance into this competition, but clearly capable of doing it here. Stevens, unbelievable player, as you say, when she's on, and one of the many talents that Kathy Rinaldi has to call upon. It's a tough selection meeting, isn't it, to pick the squad, Luke, isn't it, with the States here, even before you get to the Fed Cup weekend with the Americans, because they've got so many players to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic position to be in, isn't it? I think she's probably the envy of most of the other Fed Cup captains, but it doesn't necessarily, as you say, make it easier, because obviously, because she's got so many different players to pick from, so many combinations of players she could put out there, you know, she's potentially open to a bit of criticism if someone doesn't perform. So, you know, it's easy to look at it on paper and say, you know, she's got a really easy job, a lot of good players, but as a captain, you've still got to get out there, you pick the right players, you've got to, you know, gauge who's on form leading into the matches, and who seems confident, and make the right calls on the day, which isn't that easy.
Yeah, Rinaldi, of course, and as we say, having first year as the United States Fed Cup captain, winning all 3 of the ties, including that thrilling success in the final, which is what the Americans are looking to back up. Of course, they've won this competition more than anyone else in the history books, but that success last November, so sweet, and they'd love to get back through to a November final again. They would be away from home. We're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here, because these semi-finals could well be tight, but the Americans know if they do come through, they would be away from home in November. But that is all at the back of the mind right now. It's got to be full respect here for the French at home. I'm looking to take care of them first of all.